In the vast landscapes of Eastern philosophy, few figures loom as large or as influential as the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. Though his life began more than 2,500 years ago, his teachings continue to shape the lives of millions today. But who was the Buddha, really? What were the core ideas he shared with the world? And why do his insights still resonate so deeply, not just in Asia, but across the globe? This is not just a story of one man's spiritual journey. It's a story about the nature of human suffering, the quest for inner peace, and the profound realization that wisdom comes not from external conquest, but from inner stillness. The life of Siddhartha Gautama. According to tradition, Siddhartha Gautama was born in the 6th century BCE in what is now modern-day Nepal. He was born into a royal family, the Shakya clan, and lived a life of extraordinary privilege. His father, King Suddhodana, was determined to protect his son from the harsh realities of the world. To ensure Siddhartha's happiness, the king shielded him from suffering. Inside the palace, Siddhartha had everything: luxury, beauty, and pleasure. He was married young and soon had a child of his own. But as with all things in life, the illusion of perfection could not last forever. At the age of 29, Siddhartha ventured beyond the palace walls and encountered what would later be known as the Four Sights: an old man, a sick person, a dead body, and an ascetic, a wandering holy man who had renounced worldly pleasures. These experiences shook him to the core. He had never before seen aging, illness, or death. The realization hit hard. No amount of wealth or status could protect anyone from suffering. Driven by a burning desire to understand the nature of suffering and how it might be overcome, Siddhartha left his family and royal life behind. This event is known as the Great Renunciation. For years, he wandered as a seeker, studying under spiritual teachers and practicing extreme forms of asceticism. He deprived himself of food, sleep, and comfort in the hope that these hardships might bring enlightenment. But eventually, he recognized that this path, too, was flawed. Mortifying the body did not free the mind. And so, he adopted what would become a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy: the middle way, a path of balance between indulgence and deprivation. Enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. One day, Siddhartha sat beneath a fig tree, later known as the Bodhi tree, and vowed not to rise until he had discovered the truth. For 49 days, he meditated, facing temptations, doubts, and fears. But in the stillness of his mind, something extraordinary happened. He awakened. He realized the truth of existence. He saw the cause of suffering and, more importantly, how to overcome it. Siddhartha had become the Buddha, a title meaning the awakened one. But what exactly did he awaken to? The Four Noble Truths. At the heart of the Buddha's teachings are the Four Noble Truths. These are not just philosophical ideas, they're psychological insights, a roadmap to liberation. 1. The truth of suffering, Dukkha. Life is filled with dissatisfaction. Even in joy, there is impermanence. Everything we love will change, decay, or disappear. This is not a pessimistic view, it's a realistic one. Birth, aging, illness, death, all are inevitable. Relationships end, plans fail, even happiness fades. This is dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness that pervades life. 2. The cause of suffering, samadaya. The root of suffering is craving, or tanha, a thirst, a clinging to things, experiences, and identities. We suffer because we want things to be different from how they are. We crave pleasure and fear pain. We cling to our sense of self, to possessions, to ideas. This constant grasping creates tension and distress. 3. The cessation of suffering, nirodha. If craving causes suffering, then letting go of craving ends suffering. This is nirvana, not a place, but a state of mind. It's the extinction of desire, hatred, and delusion. It's a liberation from the cycle of rebirth and suffering. It is peace, clarity, and freedom. 4. The path to the cessation of suffering, Magga. The Buddha didn't just point out the problem, he offered a solution. The way out is the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to ethical and mindful living that leads to enlightenment. The Noble Eightfold Path. That is not a checklist, but a way of life. It is traditionally divided into 3 categories: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. 1. Right view, understanding reality and the nature of suffering. 2. Right intention, commitment to mental and ethical self-improvement. 3. Right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and constructively. 4. Right action, behaving ethically and not harming others. 5. Right livelihood, earning a living in a way that does not harm. 6. Right effort, cultivating positive states of mind. 7. Right mindfulness, being aware of thoughts, feelings, and actions. 8. Right concentration, developing deep states of meditative absorption. These practices are not commandments, but tools to purify the mind and develop insight. The goal is not obedience, it is awakening. Anatta, Anicca, and Dukkha. Beyond the 4 noble truths and the Eightfold Path, the Buddha emphasized 3 marks of existence: Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta. Anicca means impermanence. Everything is constantly changing, nothing is fixed. From the cells in our body to our thoughts and emotions, everything is in flux. Dukkha, as we've seen, is suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Even pleasure can become suffering when we cling to it or fear its loss. Anatta is perhaps the most radical teaching, non-self. There is no permanent, unchanging self at the core of our being. What we call I is just a bundle of constantly changing physical and mental processes. Clinging to a false sense of self is one of the main sources of suffering. These insights are not meant to be accepted blindly. The Buddha encouraged personal investigation. He famously said, "Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. But after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it." The legacy of the Buddha. After his enlightenment, the Buddha spent the next 45 years teaching. He traveled across northern India, gathering disciples and sharing his insights. He didn't claim to be a god, a prophet, or a savior. He was a human being who had awakened, and who wanted to help others do the same. He founded the Sangha, the monastic community, and welcomed people from all castes and backgrounds. Women were also allowed to join, a revolutionary act for the time. The Buddha's teachings, called the Dharma, were passed down orally and later written in texts like the Pali Canon and the Sutras. Over time, Buddhism spread throughout Asia, developing into different schools such as Theravada in Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, Mahayana in China and Japan, and Vajrayana in Tibet. Each school has its own practices and interpretations, but all are rooted in the Buddha's core insights. The modern relevance of the Buddha's teachings. In our modern world, the Buddha's teachings remain profoundly relevant. Anxiety, stress, and mental suffering are not limited to any one culture or time period. The practices of mindfulness, meditation, and compassion have found a home even in secular psychology and mental health. The Buddha's message is not about believing in dogma, but about seeing clearly. It's about training the mind, softening the heart, and living with awareness. It's about waking up from the dream of ego and stepping into the present moment with openness and wisdom. Closing thoughts. The Buddha never claimed to be a god. He never asked for worship. He simply said, "I teach suffering and the end of suffering." In a world that constantly changes, where loss and pain are inevitable, his message offers not just hope, but a practical path toward peace. Not through external control, but through internal transformation. Through stillness. Through insight. Through compassion. That is the enduring legacy of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. If this journey into Eastern philosophy and the life of the Buddha sparked your curiosity or helped bring clarity to your own path, consider giving this video a like, sharing it with someone who might benefit, and subscribing for more thoughtful explorations into the world's great wisdom traditions.